So, me and my wife were watching a movie one day called Split Estate. We were hungry for information. We were trying to get all the information that we had. And right before Gasland came out, a movie called Split Estate came out. And so me and my wife were watching this movie, and we're hearing everybody talk about having nosebleeds. Nosebleeds, nosebleeds, nosebleeds. And there comes that point when you start getting that sick feeling in your stomach, when you start getting that realization. Once you know, you can't not know. Our children had been having a lot of nosebleeds. And so, once we watched that movie and found out that other people living in gas fields had nosebleeds too. So we started to correlate, we started to pay attention. So it got to a point where we simply could not ignore this. And so we made a decision to move from Dish. And so we moved about 18 months ago. I moved about 25 miles away, still in the general area, but in an area where there's no drilling activity going on, and it's off of the Barnett Shale. What would it take for you to make that decision? What would it take for you to walk away from your home? Because I had to make that decision. There's a lot of people in Pennsylvania that are in that position. There's a lot of people in Texas and around the country that are in that position. Me and Tim both now live off the shale, and to stay involved, we founded a nonprofit organization called shaletest.org. Martin Luther King once said, "The path to racial equality has to be more than one lane wide. Otherwise, there's going to be a traffic jam, and it's going to take us longer to get there." He's talking about this subject. Do you want to be the one that gets your way and loses? And if we were able to stop the Keystone, because some people just don't understand, how can you work with this lady? She's against regulation, she's against the EPA. If we win, does it matter how we win? Anybody seen any of the publicity on Stop the Frack Attack? There was 5,000 people last weekend in Washington, D.C. for a rally. The goal of that rally was to bring to light all of the exemptions that the oil and gas industry has from federal environmental laws. They're exempt when other industries have to comply. Coincidentally, they also get billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars in corporate welfare. So if you took away all of those exemptions and all that corporate welfare, perhaps alternatives could be on a level foot. We hear a lot about capitalism, especially in regards to people who support the oil and gas industry. What the oil and gas industry is doing is not capitalism, it's crony capitalism. They could not do what they're doing without the influence of government. 5,000 people showed up. It was 100 degrees with 1,000% humidity. We were in the middle of an open field, and 5,000 people showed up and marched. What happened in the Barnett Shale, what's happening in southwest Pennsylvania, will happen here if you don't do anything about it. I've showed you what your community is going to look like. If anybody wants to come to Texas, I'll give you a tour of what your community is going to look like. So it's up to you. Get involved. There's sign-up sheets. You need to sign that petition. You need to volunteer to circulate that petition. It's up to you. It's a wasted trip if you do nothing. There's, you know, we have a pretty big district in Texas, and probably 10,000 people vote out of 200,000 or so in an off-year election. So you can make a difference. Don't think you can't. I think we made a difference. I'm no rocket scientist. You just have to try. I like quotes. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doers of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows that in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt. Are you going to get in the arena? Which one of those are you going to be? And so I'm going to invite John up. John's going to tell you a little bit about his organization and what they're doing, and then I will try and answer some questions if I can for a little while.
Thank you, Cal, and such a weighty message that we all need to kind of wake up to. It's looming on the horizon, and as we already stated, over 500,000 acres have already been leased by the state of Michigan of our public lands. My name is John Richter. I'm president of Friends of the Jordan. Grassroots environmental conservation organization headquartered in East Jordan. For those of us who've been studying this issue for a while, the data and evidence is just outrageous and overwhelming. Yet we're not hearing that, you know, in the public arena. These websites and fact sheets back there are just loaded, and it's just, how do you condense it down so it's not so overwhelming to those who are just beginning to learn about it? And the industry obviously is painting a very rosy picture of half-truths, and those are the hardest things to dispel because there's partial truths and a whole lot left out. When we approach our representatives, they tell us, oh, well, we've already heard from DEQ and DNR, and so we know all about it. And obviously they don't, because what DEQ is spouting is essentially what the industry has told them. And given the fact that the industry supports DEQ's budget and oversight and regulation. It's hard to believe that the message that we're trying to get out is being heard by our legislators. Not to mention that the lobbyists and the financial interests support their campaigns in a very rewarding manner. I have an announcement to make that I think be brief and fairly important. It's kind of couched in some legal language, so I'll try to read it for you. Friends of the Jordan and Anglers of the Sabo have commissioned a legal review to determine what regulatory and judicial remedies may be available in connection with the expansion of high-volume unconventional fracking for gas and oil in Michigan. Friends of the Jordan and Anglers of the Sabo have requested a legal analysis and preparation of papers and argument necessary to take meaningful legal action under Michigan's Environmental Protection Act and other case law to bar leasing and or permits until Michigan DEQ and Michigan DNR have demanded and done adequate studies to consider and determine likely effects and alternatives for deep shale fracking. This is a new phenomenon, so when you hear it's been going on for 60 years, that's another half-truth. What we hope to do is mount a legal challenge to the autocracies that we see going on and are likely to happen and get DNR and DEQ to actually do their jobs. We can't do this alone. This announcement is an attempt to get other groups and like-minded organizations to join us. We will need to build a war chest to confront this very rich and powerful industry in the courts. And so I'm hopeful this message will resonate with most of you, and we will be posting more information as it becomes available on our website, friendsofthejordan.org. And I thank you all for coming, and I believe Jim Olson has some words he'd like to say.
Thanks, John. Cal Tillman, thank you very much for being here and for that message. His strategy, having looked at this issue now for almost 3 years,